There it
All
is.
right.
Yep. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today for another episode of Financial First Aid. Today, we're talking with Sid Peddinti, attorney, entrepreneur, business strategist. He's got a bunch of titles. Sid is a business attorney, a growth strategist, a TEDx speaker, and investor. He's on a mission to educate and empower entrepreneurs with strategies that can enhance their business and or their lives. He's helped over 10,000 business owners restructure, realign, and accelerate their businesses by incorporating unique business, legal, and growth strategies that are specifically designed to protect assets, reduce risk and conflicts, and monetize hidden treasures that his clients possess. He's had the pleasure of educating and empowering over 1 million entrepreneurs through courses, programs, blogs, podcasts, radio shows, from stages such as TEDx, and is a long way from his goal of empowering tens of millions more. There are three core programs that he manages. One is designed for startups and new entrepreneurs, where his company helps them extract their knowledge and expertise and build profitable virtual businesses. He also helps design businesses in the growth phase, where his company helps them create educational ventures that receive funding and grants to enhance their growth. And last but not least, he designs programs for successful businesses where his company helps them become the preeminent source of knowledge in their niche through mass media publications, getting on stages like TEDx, and gaining recognition as the go-to experts in their niches. Welcome. Thank you so much for being with me today, Sid.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and thanks for that elaborate introduction.
Well, those are all the things that you do. I mean, it's elaborate, but that's what you really do. So,
Absolutely.
you have a couple of different companies, and but what's the primary focus of the companies? And just give me, an idea of all the names of the companies.
Yeah. So, I mean, I went in a little bit of a rebranding, I would say last year, where I realized that people just don't remember company names. They remember the person behind the company. And so for many years, almost 20 years, I've been running businesses with company names and different organizations. But I went on a mission last year to sort of build my name and get my name out there. And then through that, involved in different ventures that I'm involved in. But in a nutshell, I realized that there's a lot of um, value that I can add to new and seasoned business owners with all the things that I have been through in my own journey as an entrepreneur, going through the ups and downs of business. And I realized that this is something that I could share with others. And being a business lawyer only covered one small aspect of the value that I could add to them. And so kind of pivoted out of law per se. I use my legal knowledge as well as my experience almost as one weapon in my entire set of arsenals that I can offer to clients and prospective business owners or even new entrepreneurs. But my main focus is to be able to add value for business owners in different ways. Some could be legal, some could be business strategy, some of it could be how to stand out from the marketplace. I mean, we live in an era now that I think there's just a lot of noise in the market.
Yeah.
There's so many companies pitching the same thing, just in unique different ways. And I think with the online world, even though there are like 4 billion users on the internet, finding that one person that you can trust online is quite a tricky game now. And we've all seen this. As soon as you pull up Facebook, for example, you see the same ads over and over again and fancy wording. So I went on a quest to find strategies that could truly help me stand out from everybody else, gain the skills that let me do that,
Mhm.
and then be able to share those learnings and the teachings that I have acquired over time with others as well.
Great, Great. And what kind of motivated you to begin your journey of entrepreneurship? Let's hear that story. I bet you that's a great story.
Yeah, I mean, it's I come from an area in India where most of my family members, southern part of India, where entrepreneurship is not a popular choice. It's discouraged. Everybody in my family are doctors, pretty much, or engineers, and so I don't know, something very early on. I When I was towards the end of high school, I realized I didn't want to be a doctor. It's just not something that appealed to me. I didn't want to be an engineer, and I needed to do something that allowed me. I knew I had a lot of potential in me, but I needed something that allows me to be creative, allows me to have autonomy in life, still have a good living, make a lot of money, but also be able to contribute back to the world in a more meaningful way. Not saying that those professions they don't, but something that I valued and I envisioned. I believe it was a conference of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, about 20 odd years ago, that I attended towards the end of high school, and saw the world, careers, my life through a new set of lenses. And I realized, hey, I need to be an entrepreneur. And I mean, at that time, nobody used the word entrepreneur. I think it's more of a recent thing, but a business owner or an investor, where I can let my money work for me and be able to leverage my time in a more efficient manner. So that's kind of what prompted my journey into entrepreneurship and business ownership, and never look back.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. That really is. Um, did you ever have a time where you kind of felt like maybe, well, what was your first business? Let's put it that way. What was the first thing that you jumped
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I didn't know what I knew. I wanted to start a business. I didn't know what I could start. This was probably the last year of high school. I was maybe 18, 19, something like that. And then I realized, okay, well, what do I start? What skills can I offer to the world? And so the first thing I did was, all right, let's go do some market research to figure out there's a gap, and let's go solve that gap. And so it what I did was I went to the local grocery store down the street, and I asked the store owner, hey, what is the most sold product? What's always out of stock? And he goes, there's and I lived in an area in Toronto where there was a very diverse population. So he pointed me to the refrigerator section and said, these specialty, Indian flatbread called roti, tortillas, specialty bread items are the ones that everybody gets. We're always out of stock. I said, okay, well, and then I stood there and I went to different stores, kind of just observed what every single person was getting. And it was these, bread products. We all buy bread. And so I was like, all right, maybe I should get into that industry. So it happened to be a bread manufacturing bakery that I ended up setting up. And that's how I got in.
Okay, cool. That's good. And how did that go for you at 19? Like, what were some of the hurdles and obstacles you ran into with just getting that started off the ground?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's I didn't know anything about business at the time. The technicalities of starting a business, what kind of investment I needed, what sort of tools or equipment I needed, the processes. And one thing led to another with market research, talking to individuals, observing different things that were happening behind the scenes. And so started off by going to a bank, try to see if I could get a loan. They're like, oh, you're 19, you just started your credit. We're not
Right,
going to give you anything. And so I
right.
was like, oh, to convince my dad somehow to put himself as a guarantor in case something happened. Uh, but he was very reluctant because he wanted me to go into a
Be a
traditional
doctor.
path like everybody else in my family.
That's
He's
right.
like, I
Be a
told you how to
doctor
start
or
a business, but
engineer.
right. So he put himself, and I was able to get some loans. And with that, I bought equipment,
Okay.
hired people, ended up renting. So it started out in a very small 1-room factory that I rented. And then over time grew that when I was in university. So started university, took business and business economics and accounting. And
Cool.
then over the next 4 years or 5 years that I was in university, it ended up becoming a quite a sizable business. We had roughly 20 full-time workers, employees, as well as a huge 10,000 square foot factory,
Nice.
uh, five, six fleets of trucks, refrigerated trucks, doing roughly $6-7 million a year. So
Wow.
grew to a pretty sizable business, and it was very profitable.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's great. And so, did you ever think there was a time like while you were in college, you were like, maybe I should just forget this whole college thing and just go ahead and do my business thing? What kind of propelled you to stay in school?
Yeah, actually, that's very interesting because many times I did feel that. I was like, if I spend my time in my business, I could make a lot more revenue and I don't need to go to college. But I knew that in the back of my head, I still need to always intellectually hungry. And so I
Okay,
needed to still, fuel my brain from a technical and I guess literary perspective. So kept learning theories, the things I would learn in my economics or accounting classes and business classes, I would go implement in my business. So it was
great.
that constant cycle of learning new strategies, learning new techniques, case studies that we would read, and then implementing those things in my business. So, although it was a thought, I'm glad I stayed.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really good because that's a great example of actually you're using what you're learning in school because so many times we learn theory in college or in high school wherever, and then you think while you're doing that, well, I'm never going to use this, or I don't understand how this plays into my real everyday life, and you got a chance to do that. That's great. So, what happened as the business went on? What was going on that caused you to kind of get into a little bit of a tight situation?
Yeah, well, it was not knowing, I guess, legal rules and laws. And so when the economy crashed in 2005, 2006, uh, even though we had a thriving business, I didn't know any legalities. I didn't have the right risk, reduction measures in place, risk mitigation measures in place. And what ended up happening was my bank that was financing all my equipment and my large factory at this time, and we had millions of dollars worth of equipment by this time. It was huge baking machines, dry freeze, conveyor belts, all kinds of packaging machines, refrigerators, all this traditional things that go into a baking manufacturing factory. The bank that was financing everything ended up going bankrupt. And so they ended up going into a fire sale or a liquidation. They got repossessed by somebody else, and all of their assets, including things that were in my factory, for example, were in under court receivership. So one day I show up to work and I see a sheriff there with a court liquidator with an order, and he goes, "We're closing you down. We're repossessing all the manufacturing stuff that this bank had." And by that time we had enough cash reserves that we were like, "Hey, we can pay for all this stuff." But they're like, "I'm sorry, it's just you don't have the lien is not through yet. We're not going to let that happen." So they
Wow.
literally shut us down overnight.
Oh, wow. Wow. That was devastating. Now, I think, well, I don't know how you would feel, but I think I would have felt, you know, I'm okay, I'll be okay, but how about your employees? I mean, that must have been really hard for you. It would have been hard for me
Absolutely.
to tell them
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
that.
I had to fire 20 people on the spot. I mean, there were 20 people that showed up to that day, and they knew we were doing well. I mean, we paid them well, they were happy. And then after receiving this, I was like, well, guys, we're forced to shut down. I have to let you go. I don't know what to do. So it was a tough call, but I had, my back against the wall with literally no options, no recourse. And we were there to try and help them to recoup or do whatever. We even had like cash reserves enough in there to pay all these employees for 3 months just so that they can sustain themselves. And that obviously depleted a lot of our savings, but that's the least I could do. Even though it was, nothing that we could do. But yeah, it was a hard call. It was heartbreaking to watch this business that we built from the ground very successfully, completely almost bootstrapped, so to speak, grow to this sizable nationwide in Canada and the US, North American, very successful company. We were literally in like over 1,500 stores at that point, and then having to shut it down with 1 day worth of notice.
Wow, yeah, that is really, really tough. So did you at any time figure out like if bankruptcy could have helped you, in that situation? Would that have been a strategy that you could have used?
Oh, that's exactly what happened. And so the only way that I could relieve myself out of the debt that I owed on the equipment, it was to declare corporate bankruptcy. So that's, we literally had no other choice but to do a corporate bankruptcy. And I remember that very clearly because that was a week that I was going to graduate from university. And so that was my graduation present. My buddies, my buddies were getting cars from their parents. And here I was giving my dad a bankruptcy order saying, hey, we just went bankrupt.
Oh, wow. So, how did that kind of play out for you and I guess your father and the whole situation? How did that play out?
Well, I mean, mentally, obviously, when you have something like that happen, it's about, it brings a certain level of self-doubt, right? Was this the good route to take? And like, I had my parents, my uncles, aunts, grandparents, all kinds of people calling me and saying, I told you not to become a business owner. You should have stuck to becoming a doctor or engineer. Look at your friends, look at your cousins, they're all set. And so I was like, all right, I got to tune that out. But it was a fairly, so I lost I was the CEO of my company. And then a week later with my graduation, I had nothing else to do. So ended up asking the bankruptcy lawyer where I filed my papers, whether they had anything that I could do for them just to keep my mind active. So I'm not sitting there, thinking about this and in a downward spiral. Ended up, they had a lady at the front desk, a receptionist who was going on maternity leave. So they're like, oh, there's a lady at the front desk. You can take her post as a receptionist. And I was like, all right, I'll do it.
I love it. I love it.
I remember because he goes, and I told him, I was like, hey, I just graduated. I just had this business. But he goes, you're bankrupt. I just filed your paperwork. I'm going to offer you $22,000 a year. So that was my first job out of university. And, we were making 20, 30 grand a day in my business. And then this guy's offering me 22,000, but stuck my tail between my legs and I was like, I'll take it, whatever, I need to learn something new. And I knew the economy was going to crash because this was a pretty big bank and I was watching all the other businesses collapse. I ended up, specializing in economics. And so market prediction and just the economic cycles is what I ended up learning and specializing in. So I knew there was an imminent crash, a big one that was about to happen. So, I was like, hey, I need to, learning bankruptcy, I think might be beneficial. So ended up taking the job. And it was actually very good because I realized the people I was a person, picking up the phone and talking to potential clients who would call this lawyer's office and then shared my story and like, hey, people show up to the office or they're on the phone crying. I have to go bankrupt, never thought about it. I would share my story and all of a sudden they were like, oh, compared to you, my situation's easy peasy. And then I realized, so, because we're talking about a couple, most people have somewhere between 10, 20, 50,000, $60,000 worth of debt. Compared to me, I just declared a $7 million bankruptcy. And so, and I realized that people were willing to listen to my story. They felt comfortable, even though that's something that initially I was like, should I share this with someone? I was like, it's public record. There's nothing to hide. Um, and so I got over that very quickly. I turned, I guess they call it now, turn your mess into your match. And so I just used that as the gateway, and I quickly realized a lot of people actually who ended up in the law firm wanted me to work on their case. They felt very comfortable speaking with me. And so that was a pivotal moment for me. And it took less than 3 months or 4 months to realize that hey, actually, there's something in my own journey that I can monetize and use. And so that was I think I lasted in the company, in the law firm, for less than 4 or 5 months. And then immediately I started my own bankruptcy consulting firm. And yeah, sky was the limit because every other business was going broke at the time.
Wow, that's a fantastic story. And you were saying earlier you turned your mess into a message. That's a great story, first of all. But the other thing, I think people that are listening to this now that are either considering being entrepreneurs or already in it, is to understand that sometimes you have to, be humble and not see yourself as this big time, business person or entrepreneur, and just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do what I need to do to get to where I need to get to. And taking that job as a receptionist, just think, if you hadn't done that, you probably would not have gone to where you are now. I mean, you've helped thousands of people, and I'm sure everyone that had any kind of contact with you were actually blessed from what it was you were doing, which you decided to do, to use your bad situation to help other people. That's a great story.
Absolutely.
So,
And that's part of entrepreneurship. That's part of life. It's more than just entrepreneurship. Like, there are ups and downs in life, and we all go through it. That's just how life works. It's, there's trials and tribulations, but the success stories, so to speak, or the people who emerge on top, we look at all these Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or whoever you want to call Warren Buffett's, they've had their fair share of failures to be able to realize that, and value success. And unless I truly think that was my biggest lesson. And I even call it my greatest win, was going bankrupt, because that gave me a new perspective into life that even allowed me to value what I had, the opportunities, and just being able to recognize that, hey, anything you have can be stripped from you in a second. So enjoy life, have a great positive attitude. And more importantly, just because you're in a drought or you're in the valley, so to speak, it doesn't mean it's permanent. There's a time it's going to be yours, but you're going to have to be ready for it.
Right. Absolutely. That's great. So kind of what would be one piece of advice that you might give someone who is new, starting out, or maybe considering starting their own business and become an entrepreneur? Kind of, what would be that one thing that you might say to them to get them, to either keep going, start off, or just maintain?
I would definitely say it's going to be about resilience. It's going to be about true grit, just like in life, right? And to me, entrepreneurship or business is no different from life. I mean, at the end of the day, a business is an extension of you. It's what you have up here that you can you can turn into, turn that invisible into something visible that can be sold in the marketplace. And the key comes down to having, that unshakable attitude that, hey, there are ups and downs, but be ready to shake it off and keep going no matter what. There will be losses, that's just the nature of business. But be prepared to know that, you have to keep pressing forward, and your time will come where you are going to see success. But it's all in the mind, and it's the mindset, I think, is the greatest key there. And what I realized over the years is exactly that. It's having the positive attitude, having this mentality that, just because you're down one day doesn't mean that is permanent. Your time is going to come, but you're going to have to keep an open mind. You're going to have to keep pressing, and just, keep thanking God or the universe, whatever you believe in,
Right.
that there are opportunities there. There are, your days, better days will come.
Cool, cool. And now, that you're experiencing the kind of success that you're having now, uh, are your parents okay with you not being an engineer or a doctor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Surprisingly, a big part of who I help now are actually doctors. And that's a large portion of my portfolio comes from people in the medical industry, or even lawyers, for that matter. And these are smart individuals, but again, it comes down to technicalities, such as skills that they don't teach in med school, for example. I have a lot of doctors that I help start businesses who are just not happy with their jobs. And it doesn't have to do with money. They're making great money, but it's
Mhm.
about finding meaning, or it's about finding their true purpose, or having a deeper impact or more significance in what they do and how they want to leave the planet. And so, ironically, yeah, it's a big portion of what I do now comes down to helping doctors, successful doctors, create their own legacies.
Cool, cool beans. So, right now, in this time of the pandemic, what do you see different in terms of business strategy and in terms of businesses now than prior to, well, pre-COVID, I should say?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I really think that, with the opportunities, and especially, like, I believe these down cycles in the economy. I apologize about the cell phone here.
That's
uh,
okay.
the, the down cycles in the economy, like what even happened 15 years ago with the market
Right.
crash,
Uh-huh.
it gave way to a whole new set of innovations. Like, we had so many amazing companies that emerged, Google and Facebook, and yes, Google was around, but they truly shot up during that time. Social media, and apps, and the iPhone and PayPal, all these different technologies that came during that time of
Right.
quote unquote depression, economic depression. And
Mhm.
we're going through that right now again, where
Right.
people have to reinvent themselves. We
Right.
all have to make a pivot in whichever direction, whether it's in your job, whether it's in your business, whether it's as a person on a personal lifestyle. And I think these are amazing opportunities that present there. Um, and to me, it has always been about what you can control. As long as people focus on things that they can control. Yes, the pandemic is going to go around. Nobody knows about these things, right? It's like, even the experts, this is all
Right.
new. So
Right.
one day, they're one day they're like, hey, it's not contagious. Then it's like, hey, it's contagious. But those are things beyond our control. But it's all about, what can you control? How can you empower yourself with what's around you? And with the opportunities for entrepreneurs, I think we live in such an amazing era right now, where you literally need nothing but the internet connection, maybe a phone or a laptop or a computer, to start an online business, from home, from your bedroom, from your living room, wherever, your kitchen,
Right.
and operate it, make money, and live the life you want to live, whether it's to make more money, to make, have greater autonomy, to have more personal freedom, to be able to afford things for yourself, for your family, financial security, what have you. I think we live in such an amazing era that people are not utilizing this.
Mhm.
And to me, that's why my mission ever since COVID, I was like, well, we're thinking too small. We need to take this message of how people can start a business and really get the everybody out there to be able to create sustainable rev streams from home, which they can do without, it's like spending $0. If I had the tools right now, or even if you think back, 50, 80 years ago, the famous entrepreneurs like the Rockefellers and the Henry Fords, imagine the lengths they could have gone to, just like Elon Musk, right? All the things he's involved in, and the kind of groundbreaking stuff that he does on a day-to-day basis. How much further we'd be, right? And so I think it's just, making people aware that number one, they have what they need. People are always looking for external factors. I don't have the skill, or I'm not technically qualified, or maybe I don't have the investment, or, oh, what if it's risky? What if I fail? Well, what if it succeeds, right? What if the business takes off to the new level? What if your business has the groundbreaking invention that the world's looking for?
Right.
And so I think it's just a matter of perspective.
That's great. I love that. So the focus of this podcast is to educate, motivate, and inspire entrepreneurs and want-to-be entrepreneurs. And I'd like to leave my listeners with those three takeaways. So number one, what would you tell them that would educate them?
I would definitely say, find those areas of inner passion, whatever stimulates you, whatever excites you, whatever inspires you. There's a way to make money from that. And especially with the tools, I mean, people have all kinds of weird niches they want to be involved in, and they're wondering if there's a market demand for it. Uh, there is. I mean, there's 65,000 Google searches conducted every second. There are thousands of people, no matter what industry you pick. There's somebody out there looking for someone just like you to help them.
Good, good. And then what would you say to them to motivate them?
Well, I couldn't have said anything better than what Nike already said. Just do it. I mean,
Just do it.
just do it. Like, give it a try.
Right.
Don't be afraid to fail, because imagine if, like, I always use this example of, what if the Wright brothers stopped trying in the first try, or Thomas Edison decided after the second light bulb that was a failure that he's like, hey, forget about it. Or Einstein decided after two draft papers that he was never going to crack it. I mean, inventions are done with failures. Now something, try it. If it fails, now you know what doesn't work. So that's one step closer to what does work.
That's exactly right. And then lastly, what would you tell them to inspire them?
Well, I mean, everything you're looking for, whether it's money, freedom, autonomy, impact, influence, the perfect lifestyle, whatever you're looking for is right at your fingertips. I mean, it's literally one or two clicks away, right? You just need to be able to have that open mind. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think a lot of people are afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Investing in a business is investing in yourself. It's your own business. It's for you. It's for your family. It's for your economy. So don't be afraid to put in a few bucks and say, let's give this a shot, or go get the coaching or mentorship or consulting that's required from the right people. Because, it's like I said, it's your dream is one or two clicks away in today's day and age. So don't be afraid to try.
That's great. That's great. So how can my listeners get in touch with you, Sid?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to go to my website, sidpeddinti.com, and then feel free to reach out to me from there. We have all kinds of templates. We have websites. We have, consulting sessions, downloadable software, downloadable sheets, blueprints, all kinds of stuff that you can utilize. Things that have taken me, literally like millions of dollars to test and try, fail, and work on, that we've put together, that has been an evolution. And, we want to see people succeed in whatever we can do. We have quite a few large companies supporting us in our quest. A few Fortune 500s who love our mission of empowering entrepreneurs. And so we're happy to give away these tools. And like I said, it's, don't be afraid to try, just do it. And we're here to help you.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. And thank you for your time, for being on my podcast. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you and kind of pick your brain about things and just learn. As soon as I know that it's going to be out there, you're going to be the first to know, so you can post it on your website or wherever, so other people can take advantage of your knowledge, insight, and your wisdom. I really appreciate it. So
absolutely. Well, it's a give and take process. I mean, I'll leave with one final thing. It's like, people are always we're all going online, learning new skills all the time, whether it's from things like Udemy or Harvard extensions or whatever courses. But keep in mind that in today's day and age, we're not just the consumers of this information, we're also the teachers, educators, the people, the problem solvers. So knowledge is not just meant to be kept in you. You have knowledge, shared with the world, and see where it takes you.
That sounds great. And we would love to know that your company, I want people to know that, your company does have a tremendous impact on entrepreneurs, and also, the things that you do are impacting the world on a level to really facilitate what entrepreneurs do to make it easy. It's tough being an entrepreneur, I know. So
Absolutely.
it's great to know that there are companies out there and there are people like you who really say, hey, listen, I'm going to help you out to get to where you want to go. All you got to do is just take that first step.
Absolutely. Nothing, nothing happens without the first step, right?
Exactly. Thanks so much, Sid. It was good to talk to you.
Absolutely. Likewise.
All right.